Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Insightful Babes.
We have been rescheduling, guys, with Anne, the founder of Vamigas. And I'm just so happy that we're finally here. Thank you so much for accepting our invite to
Thank
be
you.
here, to be our special guest here at Insightful Babes podcast. And right now we were talking that we're ready for the weekend, guys. Like, and it's barely Tuesday. We're recording this on a Tuesday, but I don't know what it is that it feels like a weekend, or maybe it's just me that I just really wish it was the weekend
I
already.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But how are you doing,
Same.
Anne? Thank you so much for being here.
Good, good, good. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm so excited to be here. This is only my second podcast I've ever done in my life, so so bear with me. So far I'm having a lot of fun.
Yay.
Yay! Woo, woo, woo.
That's
Well,
good.
let's get this started, guys. We want to talk all about Vamigas, the botanical brand, Latina owned. And, I love this brand so much because of the products. They're vegan, guys. And you guys already know I've shared this many, many times here with you guys that I do have very sensitive skin. So I have to be like super specific on what I put on my skin. And when I met Anne and, she told us all about Vamigas and what they use, I was like, oh my gosh, like I need this. And I've been falling in love with the products. But before we talk about all of that, we want a little bit of like chisme background, right? So, Anne, how did you start Vamigas and where did that idea come from?
Yeah. So basically, let me backtrack a little bit. So I was born in Villa del Mar, Chile. My family arrived to LA when I was in elementary school. And, I ended up, I went to college at UCLA. And then after a few years after college, I ended up moving to San Francisco, where I was doing startups, like startup PR. So I was working with startups, helping them with growth using public relations. So I helped found one of the most successful startup PR agencies of that time. It was like around early to mid 2000s, and so I learned a lot around like growth hacking and using media, using story ideas to create brands and to make them grow. And so during that time, what happened is years passed. I ended up starting my own business, my own PR firm that went really well. I started specializing in public relations for Latina led and Latina owned and Black women owned startups in not just in Silicon Valley, but all over that, and also, like food brands and CPG brands. And so I made a really, really good name for myself. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to start angel investing a few years after I arrived in San Francisco. And I joined a network called Pipeline Angels, led by amazing founder Natalia Bertino Yera, and actually another Latina that you should interview. Natalia Bertino Yera es colombiana, and so it's basically a network of primarily Latina and Black women angel investors. We invested as a group, still do, in startups, right? So, sort of the initial, so like there's different parts of this network. They teach you. So Natalia's program teaches you how to angel invest, the ins and outs. And then you band together with your cohort, with your class. My cohort was in Puerto Rico. How amazing is that to learn about angel
Wow.
investing in Puerto Rico? And so through that, I met Christina, and me and Christina, we like to say that we were back then the only Latinas. Not only in Silicon Valley, but investing like angel investors. Right now, there's a lot more, and sort of like the whole space is exploding, and
What is
it's great.
what is angel investing, by the way? Sorry, I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, yeah. And so basically angel investing is when you invest as a person, you invest some of your money. It could be $5,000, it could be 10,000. It could be, you could be a shark, one of the people from Shark Tank and invest $100,000, right?
Mhm.
And into a startup. And basically that money, you invest that money and you can watch it grow, right? And so, in
Okay.
10 years, $5,000 could turn into $30,000 or 50,000 or $1 million, like, imagine if you were an investor in Facebook, like
Mm,
15 years ago, right? So
yeah.
it's sort of like a way to make your money just sort of pop. And so I met Christina because we were both angel investing through Pipeline Angels. And then we became friends because, we were two Latinas and we lived near each other too. So what ended up happening is that at that time, we're both becoming new moms. So she was a new mom. I had had fertility issues. And so I went through
Mm,
IVF, and we both kind of started spiraling into into this sort of research that was finding out that Latinas had higher rates of, certain hormone disrupting chemicals in our bloodstream. And
oh,
some of
wow.
that, researchers have speculated that that could be due to the personal care items that we use, right? And
Mhm.
some of that, like the aha moment for me was when I was doing IVF, and the doctors would be like, "Okay, don't wear any deodorant during the procedure, and don't wear any fragrances." Okay, and so
Mhm.
for me, I was like, "Well, gosh, why?" So you sort of start asking around, and then you ask the
Yeah.
doctors and the nurses, and it's because of these hormone disrupting chemicals that have been shown to get in the way of this process, of meaning they
Wow.
get in the way of fertility, which is just was
Mhm.
wild to me, for me to think about,
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, these ingredients that we're putting in our through personal care items like soaps and
Mhm.
could be like our skincare routine. It could even be stuff in the kitchen, right? And
Mhm.
through that, so as I mentioned, Christina and I learned that Latinas have higher sort of toxic load, higher levels of these
Mm.
hormone disrupting chemicals in our bloodstreams.
Wow.
And this is research done by places like UCSF and
Mhm.
Berkeley. And so we're,
Mhm.
we're, we're like, oh my gosh, Latinas need clean beauty. Where is the clean beauty that's targeting us? Back
Mhm.
then, there was zero clean beauty brands at big retailers targeting Latinas, like talking to us. We
Mhm.
didn't. There's no Goop for Latinas. There's sort of no
Yeah.
like bigger body of
Mhm.
organization or brands that are like for Latinas and that felt
Mhm.
authentic to Latinas that were targeting them for
Mhm.
clean beauty. And we're like, you know what, let's do it. And Christina's background is in beauty. She's had a beauty brand for almost a decade, and she knew
Mhm.
Mm.
what she was doing. She had all the pieces in place, and she's like, let's do it, Annie. Now I come from a
Mhm.
marketing background, so we joined
Mhm.
forces and we just sort of we did it. We launched it.
Ooh, the power
And
team.
Yes.
and yeah, and yeah, it grew so fast. Like we didn't really expect how fast it happened. We launched during the pandemic when I had a new baby and Christina had a toddler, and yeah, now we're here. We just launched at Target. We're launching at Whole
Mhm.
Foods in just a couple weeks. I'm not sure when this will air, but our Whole
Mhm.
Foods launch is May. We're at Anthropology. We're at J.C. Penney.
Yes.
We're at Thrive Market. We're at 13 Loon. And yeah, and our Target launch has been so much fun and so amazing. What else? So we just won Inc. Magazine's Female Founders 200 award, which is incredible. So, yep,
Woo,
that's
Yes.
woo, woo.
that's us. And then
Congrats.
Congratulations, girls.
thank you, thank you.
That is amazing. And like I feel like it's really important as well to have, these amazing products in retail. It's so accessible now that you could actually go and shop for them.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
exactly.
find it
Yeah.
super interesting, like you said, that, I feel that for us Latinas, who love to look good, and we use all of these like products, and if they make us look beautiful, we don't even think about like the label. I'm guilty, guys. I was like that until like my sensitive skin problems. But,
Mhm.
it is so important
Yeah,
to like really just read the label, guys. Like all of
Yeah.
those things, like they can affect you, health wise.
yeah.
So what was one of the things that you noticed within like the Latino industry with like beauty and self-care? Do you think Latinas know about all of these chemicals stuff?
So what we found is that there's still a lot more like to learn and to
Mm,
share, and a lot more, I think, education that needs to be done. Less so in our generations, and like, but
mm,
less so in like millennials and Gen Alpha and Gen X. But I think so I think more so in our parents' generation. So like our parents, some of our parents
Mhm.
are Gen X. I mean, I'm a baby Gen X, but my parents are boomers, but many of our customers are millennials or Gen
mhm,
Alphas. And so I think there's a lot of education in previous generations. So I guess in a nutshell, I would say there's still a lot that uh, we need to we need to sort of educate our comunidades about, because it's not really
mhm,
talked about. And I think
mhm,
one of the big problems that we see is that, so many of our families still get our products from the homeland, right? So like we may
mhm,
have moms, or even ourselves, we have like favorite products that we get from from Mexico, or from Chile, or
mhm,
or from Puerto Rico. And the thing that we found is that many of these, maybe not many, but some of these products have really problematic ingredients. So, like, for example,
mhm,
one study recently, actually last year, found that many skin whitening products that we use for hyperpigmentation, for manchas,
mhm,
um,
Mm.
show elevated levels of mercury. And what were the highest products that showed higher levels of mercury? Products from outside of the US. So it's like the stuff that we
mhm,
get from our homeland. So yeah, like there's I think there's a big problem with, and gosh, I don't know who will tackle that internationally. I mean, I think here in the US, we're all sort of just waking up to it, and we're all realizing it.
Mhm.
But there's also an issue in our homelands, right? And then, like, I talked to
Yeah.
my primos about it, and they're like, oh, like, they're still using certain things that products that may not have the best ingredients, but they just sort of don't have that research there that has made it out to their
Yeah.
country. So that's another level. That's like another can of worms that you know
Mhm.
mhm.
is hard to open.
Yeah.
Or also, I feel like even just going for like the cheap products, because you're so like me, I grew up when I had to like use kind of cheap products.
Yeah,
So you just kind of, get used to it and you don't really realize that they're so bad for you.
yeah, exactly. And
Hmm.
I like what you said. One of the things that you said, which was like, you know, the amount that we use during our lifetime. So, you know, it, clean beauty is a little bit like weird, and like it's kind of awkward to talk about clean beauty, because the thing is that some of these ingredients may or may not be risky. Like they may not
Hmm.
cause cancer. Like research at places like Berkeley and UCSF have shown a correlation between certain ingredients like phthalates and parabens and stuff like that to,
Hmm.
higher instances of cancer, fertility issues, or even diabetes. But there isn't sort of concrete evidence that says you need to stop using these ingredients, right? And so,
Hmm.
but what happens is even a little tiny bit of risk is problematic, because what's happening with the skincare, we're using it from 20, or from 15 to 40, right? So if you use the same ingredient that's a problem from 15 to 40, that's more likely to
Hmm.
cause an issue, like cancer, hormone issues, right down the line.
Hmm.
So it's not like, if I use one of these products with an ingredient that's problematic, I'm going to get cancer immediately, right?
Hmm.
It's like the long-term use, and it's like the
Yeah.
toxic load, the potential toxic load. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me also like of when you get your nails done, you go and you put them under the UV lamp. It's like not into like instantly you're like gonna get cancer or anything like that, but over the years and
Yeah.
long term, yeah, I was reading about that as well. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like
yeah,
there's so
exactly.
many things out there that we don't know.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
that that we don't
Hmm.
know. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
Yeah.
perfect way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel that for us Latinos también we have the whole like the tradition of using a certain product,
Mm.
como el Vicks, right?
Ándale,
Like
ajá.
things like that, but like with, like beauty products. I know, my grandma and my mom, like, oh, they stand by this one product and they don't even
Mm-hmm.
know what, ingredients it has, if it's good or bad. They just know that, everybody in La Familia has used it and you have to use it because it's good for them or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
they just stick to that. So we do have that a lot. I don't know. Have you guys experienced that or is it just my familia?
No.
Yeah, it's very, oh my gosh, like, we're very, brand loyal. We're very, very brand loyal. And actually there is research. So like anecdotally, I know that we're all very sort of brand loyal,
Yeah.
even back
Mhm.
in, our homelands, but also there is research that shows that Hispanics here and Latinas here in the US are also very, very, we're more brand loyal than the general population. So that's absolutely true. Like if we like a brand, forget it. Like we're gonna buy it wherever. We're gonna stockpile it. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna give it to our primos and our tias. Yeah, totally.
I
Yeah.
agree. I'm the same way. Like I'm like if I like it, it's gonna work for me, and then I don't want to keep like yeah
Yeah,
buscándole, yeah
yeah,
nomás. Let me keep this one, and I know that one's gonna work for me. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So right now we were talking, we're talking about all the ugly, nasty stuff of products and ingredients, guys. But now let's talk about the good because I know, from our homes and like, the countries like our Latam, right? Latino America. We also have good natural products, right? I
Hmm.
know that also my grandmother stands by the aloe vera plant, and it is good. I've used it. And guys, like I have sensitive skin.
Yeah.
Shout out to the aloe vera plants. Like they're
For
so
real.
good for you. And there's so many different other like natural remedies, that we all used. So what has been your experience with that, Anne? Because I know that your products, they come from all of those natural remedies. So what has been your experience with all of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, essentially, we like to say we're reclaiming, simple, naturally derived, organic, clean beauty ingredients from our homelands, from our ancestral land. Like stuff like yerba mate from Patagonia, maracuya, rosa mosqueta from Chile, babasu, patagua, prickly pear or nopal,
Mhm.
chia from Mexico. And these have been used for, some of these ingredients have been used for centuries by the indigenous people in our homelands.
Mhm.
And so it's, not only in skincare, but, they would drink them as teas or, for example, yerba
Yeah.
mate, right? It's like, it's a great skincare, all of a sudden, los americanos are like, oh, yerba mate is amazing for my skin. But then we've been drinking it for centuries, right? And
Mhm.
so we kind of saw, and this is how we hit the market a little bit when we launch, is we kind of saw ourselves as reclaiming these ingredients back from wellness and skincare and beauty. And uh, it was quite kind of a response to this sort of like trend that was all about grabbing ingredients from our homelands and not giving them context, right? So,
Yeah.
our abuelas, our bisabuelas, all the way back to the indigenous people in our homelands, some of who are our ancestors, they knew about these things beforehand. Maqui has been around for centuries, and now all of a sudden, oh, maqui is like an amazing cool ingredient, right, in skincare. But our ancestors have known about these for centuries. And so, another example is Chilean rosehip, Rosa mosqueta, which in
Mhm.
Chile, in Brazil, and some parts of Mexico also, families have used them for generations to heal skin issues, right? So it's like you would get like a chickenpox mark, and your abuela would like put rosa mosqueta on your skin, or like
Hmm.
you would have any type of sort of skin blemish. So these are all secrets that our ancestors have used for centuries and are just sort of starting to become trendy. And so for us, it was really kind of about reclaiming them and talking about, shouting shouting out to the world that, about the fact that, hey, like these are from our homelands, and,
Yes.
a little context around it would be awesome. And, our ancestors knew about these for a long time. So like, I guess in a nutshell, like we feel like it's really important to talk about the context of these ingredients,
Yeah.
Hmm.
as you're, as you're marketing them, yeah, as whatever brands are marketing them to their customers, like, the hottest new ingredient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did have a question on how we can educate our abuelitas or tias or
Yeah.
moms about
Yeah.
all of these products that have really bad ingredients on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because they are tercas and they are stubborn at times.
Very stubborn. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what would you recommend to anyone out there who, is starting to learn about all of these clean products and ingredients? What would you recommend for them to do when they have to like educate their familia on this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So basically, let me go back like a little bit. Let me go back a few decades. So our familias had certain traditions and like skincare routines and
Mm,
healing serums and like cosas caseras, right? Y
mm,
artesanales, that we used for not only healing ourselves but also healing our skin. And our abuelas got used to like skincare and beauty products from America only recently. So it was only
mm.
during the 40s and the 50s and the 60s
Yes.
that companies like Max Factor and Revlon and other companies
Mm,
arrived in Latin America because they wanted to, it was like a new market for them, right?
mm,
So that's, it sort of like maybe driving home to them that it's a very recent, like kind of invention, in Latin America. Like these are very sort of recent ingredients that were introduced, recent-ish ingredients that were introduced into our homelands. Because before, it was all very sort of naturally derived, and we had our own brands and our own, you know, um,
Mhm.
traditions, right? And so I think one of the ways is to just sort of drive home how many of these are corporations that may not have our best interests in mind. Um, and to sort of not see these beauty brands, like certain beauty brands that they may have grown up with, as like the be all end all, right? Like there's there's certain ingredients that are now kind of being shown by these big universities to have these problematic results, right? Like
mm,
cancer or fertility issues or diabetes. And so I think like maybe the easiest way is to kind of teach them to read the ingredients, and
mm,
you know, like the least amount of ingredients, the better. And it's okay that some of the ingredients are chemicals. Like we're not, I like to tell people we're not against chemicals. Chemicals are
mm,
Mhm.
modern, they help to create a modern civilization, right? But there's
Yeah.
certain ingredients that have been correlated, that have been connected by via research to bad outcomes. And so I think it's just really important to um, read the ingredients, and maybe for now stick to products that have as minimal ingredients as possible. Because and
mm,
that's such a good question, because it's like for our generation, we could be like, oh, here's a list. Like Credo has a list, like Whole Foods has a
Mhm.
list of
mm,
ingredients that they avoid, right? So it's like for us, it's like, okay, we know where to go we know where to go online to get that list of skincare ingredients to avoid. Or like an organization like the Environmental Working Group, right? Like there's certain ingredients that you just avoid. But for our parents, for our, and for our abuelas, that's sort of not a like normal thing to do, right? So
Mhm.
That's a hard question, like, because how do we like, and maybe it's up to us to kind of have like the
Mm,
printout from Credo or from Environmental Working Group and be like, okay, let's try to avoid anything with these chemicals
Mhm.
that
mm,
that could be problematic, and just sort of imparting that knowledge, give them maybe 3 skincare ingredients to avoid.
Mhm.
So
mm.
I don't know. It's really hard. That's
Yes.
very,
Yeah,
very
it's
hard.
really.
Very hard, very hard.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
what's sad is that I feel like many, gosh, some of our abuelas have and bisabuelas have been using these for so many decades, and
Mm,
who knows, like,
Mhm.
the issues that they had because of
Yeah.
these ingredients, and no one will know.
mm.
No one will
Yeah.
will know that it's like there's like this sort of connection.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
then like they would usually that's what they say, right? Like if there's a certain sickness that their bisabuela had, maybe like diabetes, and then you
Yeah,
grow up and then it's like, oh, you have diabetes now? Oh, it's because our bisabuela had it. And, but in reality, like you said, it could be because of that one product that
yeah,
they've all been using,
yeah, for
So it's just,
decades. Yeah,
it's mind blowing.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. I remember what I was gonna ask you now. Um, how important was it for you to like use products or when you started your like the brand to use those products from like your homeland or like certain products? How important was that for you?
Oh, so I think, yeah, I mean, I think we had an aha moment when we were like, so how do we solve this issue of how do we solve this problem of like, you know, like letting more Latinas know about clean beauty and green beauty and like cleaner ingredients. And so one of those aha moments was, oh my gosh, like our homelands. So Christina is third generation Mexican American. I'm,
Mm,
first gen Chilean. Like our homelands are literally the they gave birth to these ingredients. So that aha moment was the rosehip. We're like, well, gosh, what
mm,
is like
Mhm.
rosehip is the cleanest, purest ingredient. You can use rosehip. That's one ingredient, and that's organically grown. And I mean, it's wild harvested. It doesn't even have, it's like beyond
Mhm.
organic, right? It's like wild
mm,
harvested in the Andes, and it's not conventionally farmed. Um, it's like we would always go back to sort of that idea of like botanicals from our homelands, and that was the most naturally derived ingredients that we could think that we could sort of come up with as we brainstormed, and we just thought that was so beautiful. Like we're like, gosh,
mm,
like this is our way to also honor our abuelas and our bisabuelas
Yeah.
and the women in our ancestral line, the señoras in our ancestral line,
Yeah.
right? The indigenous people in our countries too. So I think it was just sort of like it was always there, even from the beginning when we were talking about how to solve this problem of getting clean beauty to Latinas, our botanicals from our homelands.
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
love that.
I really love your brand because, it's like you guys are embracing that Latinidad. So
Mhm.
for me as a Latina, going to Target and then looking at, oh, Vamigas products right there. And it's like, like we're embracing our Latinidad by
Yeah.
using all of these natural products. And I just love that so much. How important was it for you guys to embrace your Latinidad within your brand?
So I think that's interesting because we may be one of the only brands that is a mix of um, like assimilation, like I don't know if that's the word. So because I'm first gen, because I'm an immigrant, and because Christina's so her dad's side of the family has been here for like almost 100 years. We
Mm,
almost had a different culture. Like hers was very much like Mexican American, 100 years, like arrived 100 years ago, like,
Mhm.
and she almost like she's she wants to learn more about her roots and about her abuela and her
mm,
bisabuela's roots, right? And
Mhm.
but for me, it's like it's always been there, right? It's like I've always been
mm,
like
Yeah.
bilingual, and like I came to this country and I didn't know any English. I learned English, it's like I go back to Chile like once a year, and
Mhm.
I think for me, it was just natural. It was like a natural thing. I we because it's sort of in every part of my life, since like, um, so I think for me, it was more of like, just like a natural progression. I was just like, I just kind of want that to be, I want my life and like how I live and like how I talk to my family members to be part of the brand, and like I want to be able to talk to my customers like how I talk to my primas, right? And for
Yeah.
her, it was more like she, wanting to know more about her roots, and about her bisabuela who came here. And actually, and she was just telling me that I think it was her bisabuelo who arrived in San Francisco and opened up a Mexican restaurant, and this was like 75 years ago. It's like something
Wow.
crazy like
Wow.
that. So it's like, I love that, even within our Latino culture, there's so many different, it's like, it's such a complex, there's so many complex layers of like different
Mhm.
levels of assimilation and immigration patterns. And I think we wanted to show both of those worlds, right? Like for me, it was like the recent-ish, immigrant. And for her, it was like the Mexican American who's been here for a long time and who's had roots here for many, many years,
Mhm.
and who is assimilated, so I think we never really kind of set out to do it. It was just sort of natural. Like I think part of as a founder, when you create a brand, your personality just kind of seeps into the brand. It seeps into your
Mhm.
social
Yes.
media and your newsletters and your
Mhm.
PR, right? So it was just kind of like a natural thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Where
Oh,
did the
that's so
name come
pretty.
from? Where did the name come from, Vamigas?
Yes, so it's a mix of, well, okay. So there's two separate stories, and they're both like a little true. So one is amigas, but with the letters of our daughters. So my daughter's name is Valentina, so that's the V, and her daughter's name is Marco, and that's an M. So we use the V and the M to sort of create a word with amigas, and that turned into Vamigas. But then after we launched, um, the sort of thing within our community was vamos amigas. So it kind of turned to like vamos amigas. I think
Mhm.
somebody made a joke in a comment somewhere, and so it's like two, there's two origin stories to our name. So
Yeah.
vamos amigas,
Mhm.
or our daughters' names.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love both of those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, how do you guys work together? And like, I know that, you know, it's sometimes it's kind of hard, I don't know, you guys don't live really like close by and stuff like that. Like, how do you guys make it work? Because I know Maria and I were like in the
Oh,
other
this is in the same
part,
boat.
on the other side,
Yes.
in the same boat. She lives on pretty far from me, and
Yeah.
also like we live far from each other, but we still make it work. Like, what is some advice that you might have for like people like us, that are going through this? Or
Yeah. So, I mean, the sort of most essential role, right, is to be super comfortable with virtual work because you're forced to, right? So when me and Christina
Mhm.
started this brand, we were both in the same area, and we were in the San Francisco Bay Area. But now, then I moved to SoCal, to the campo in SoCal, and she stayed in the Bay Area. And so just be really comfortable with virtual work, and um, get as efficient. So create systems that are as efficient as possible. Um, Communicate, like make sure that you're communicating in a way that makes sense for the both of you. I think at the beginning it was kind of funny because like so because of my PR background, I had sort of so I had software that I was used to using with clients, and so I tried to get Christina onto the system. It's like a
Mhm.
tool, and she refused. Like, I mean, she tried, but
Mhm.
she was like, no, like no. She just like texting me, right? So I was like, okay, fine, like let's just text, right? So just trying to figure out what communication is the most efficient. But B, have systems that are as efficient as possible to communicate about each element of your business, right? And that could be
Mhm.
skincare, that could be whatever business. You could be like any type of a media startup,
Mhm.
and just like I think communication is key, and to have maybe like Slack, or use go beyond email, go beyond text, and just have something that that is a good model that works for the both of you, and that where you're not dropping balls, and everyone's comfortable with how it works.
That
I
is
like that.
so good advice. For
Mm-hmm.
anyone out there
Templates,
who's planning to
templates.
start,
Yeah,
any business with your amiga,
yeah,
it's the best. It's
yeah.
the
It
best.
is.
When you
Yeah.
choose the right person, to do business with, it is an amazing, incredible journey, guys.
It is. It is.
Um, so, I want to know what's next for this year. What's next for Vamigas?
Yeah. So we are going to be launching a couple of new products.
Mm.
And
Ooh.
which is going to be exciting. One is going to be a most likely a cream, cremita.
Mm.
I won't say much more because Christina's going to kill me. Uh,
Mm. No,
and
Christina.
and then so we're going to be launching at Whole Foods next. We're going to be
Mm.
expanding at Target. And we're actually going to be, so we're in the final stages of a book deal. We haven't really told anyone yet, but it's going to be a book
Ooh.
for Latinas about wellness. I can't go into more because because Christina's going to kill me again.
No.
Christina,
It's going to be
Christina
around like,
likes
I don't know what it is, guys, but like from all of our special guests, they always announce things that they shouldn't announce on here. Guys, believe us, it is not Diana and I who
no.
tell them to share. It's 100% them. But thank you for sharing.
oh my gosh, yes. So that is next. And then so we're going to be able to give the specifics about, so like we're getting all the final stuff done on this book deal. It's going to be a book for Latinas that will probably be out 2024.
Oof.
That is so awesome.
Muchas cosas. I
Yeah.
love this. I love the energy. I love everything that
Hmm.
Vamigas is doing. Thank you so much for creating Vamigas because
Yeah.
Lord knows we needed this.
Yes, definitely. Are you guys gonna do like like a meet and greet or something, like when you're launching Whole Foods or anything like that? Or
Yeah, we have been thinking about that. So we may, yeah.
Mhm.
So we may. So
That'd be so
um
cool. Hmm.
yeah, like that would be so much fun. And like I feel like
Yeah.
me and Christina, like we both have littles. I have a 3-year-old. Christina has a kindergartner. So it's like we're both stuck inside the house, in different parts of California,
Yeah.
all day long. So it would be like a dream come true for me to be like, okay, here you go. Here's a baby. It's
Yeah.
a mi esposo, here's the baby. I'm going to go to LA or San Diego and I'm going to do this. So, yes. So I think we'd love to have something like that in the future. And we will let everyone know on our Instagram or our TikTok.
Yeah. So where can our
Yeah.
listeners connect with you guys? Where can they find you?
Yeah. So of course, there's our website, vamigas.com, and that's where you also find a store locator where you can find where we are physically at a Target near you, or a JCPenney near you, or a Nordstrom near you. We're also, we're in hundreds of Targets around the country. So most likely, if you are, you can just sort of search it, your Target app for where Vamigas is. We may be in a store near you. You can also find us online at target.com. We're also at TikTok at Vamigas, and on Instagram at Vamigas Botanicals. And I'll warn you that our Instagram is like very product focused, very like, kind of like buttoned up. Our TikTok is just very kind of wacky, and it's just like our lifestyles, right? And like our weird
I love it.
and toddler mom, Latina mama lives. So it's like kind of like different vibes depending on what folks like.
Mhm.
Awesome. So you
Hey,
guys
there
can
you guys
choose.
go. When you
Yeah, you
guys
guys
need
can
You're
something like a
choose.
right.
Target haul, like for sure, stop and get Vamigas.
Yeah, ahí tienen, ¿no? La excusa of why we're going to Target now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes, hashtag Target Hall. Latina Target Halls. We need more Latina Target Halls.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Okay, Diana, pues, we're leaving
Okay.
now. Okay, guys, thank you. No. Wow, this is so amazing. Thank you so much, Anne, for sharing everything that you shared with us today. I hope that, all of those goals and plans that you have succeed because they're already succeeding. And guys, this makes us so happy to see, Latina owned brand in the beauty industry. It's incredible. Thank you so much for creating these products. Sigan pa'lante. And well, we'll be back for more, guys. So anything else you'd like to share, Anne, before we finish this episode?
No, just come find us at Target, tag us, and we'll feature you on our social media.
There you have it,
Oh, I like
guys. We
that.
will have all of their information here on the description of this episode. Y pues, hasta luego, hasta pronto, and we hope to see you soon in person, girl.
Oh my
Y
God,
pues
I would love
bueno,
that, please.
saludos y
Yes.
bendiciones a todos. Thank you guys for tuning in to Insightful Babes podcast.
Thank you so much.